Welcome at this music clinic. And today's guest is Juan van Emmeloot, and he's going to teach you how you can create great new grooves by using your daily basic rudiments. Juan, go ahead. Welcome again. This was a song called Last Exit from the album Burning the Rules from Juan. Juan, it's nice to have you here tonight.
Thank you, man.
During this clinic, we want to teach our viewers how they can create new, unique grooves.
Yes.
And you're trying to show how you can use basic rudiments like single strokes, double strokes, paradiddles.
Exactly.
How you can do that.
Yeah.
But to make it more understandable for you all, we have divided this clinic in 3 parts. So the first part, we are going to look to what's the best way to study even. So how do you study anyway? And then in the second part, you look at the basics and how you can use these basics to get into a creative flow. And then the last part, which is the most important, is of course composing these new grooves.
Yeah, you have to be original.
Yeah, and to make sure that you are really a part of this clinic and that you enjoy the fact that Juan is here, you can ask him questions. So there's a small question bar underneath the video, and you can just send in your question, then it comes in here, and we try to answer all your questions. And there's one guy called Case who already found this way to ask questions.
Fantastic.
So he said, by the way, Juan, how do you train independence?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question, of course. Well, Kees, to be honest, it's a good question to start off with. There's many ways to train it. One of the most important things I would like to share is just always try to keep it simple as possible. And try to use your coordination to maintain in a flow. It's very important. Give an example. If you play the right cymbal in quarter notes, and for example, you play the hi-hat with the foot in the offbeat, which means the 8 notes, then you get a nice balance. So you can start practicing like this. It's like, give you an example. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this is going to be like a fundamental training for you. Now, you have the bass drum and the snare drum to fill in. So what you can do is you can create patterns, or you can find patterns, that you can play with the snare drum, and you can also play them with the bass drum. But you have to maintain the quarter beats on the right and the offbeat on the hi-hat. So never change them. So let me play you a pattern, an easy pattern. It's a 16th. And I play them in 2 bars on the snare drum, and then I try to play them 2 bars on the bass drum. And meanwhile, the right cymbal and the hi-hat just, continuously goes on. So let's start off slowly, so you can all see and watch what's going to happen, okay? Now, this is a nice tempo. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3. Nice and easy. As you can see, I just keep playing the right cymbal on the beat. I don't change it. I don't change the hi-hat. The snare drum pattern that I started, I continuously repeat for 2 bars, and then I do the same with the bass drum. This is very important to do it in 2 bars. Just always remember, train yourself in remembering the 2 bars, and then change the instrument.
Okay.
And I think it's a good start to do it like
good
this.
Suggestion. By the way, many of the examples that Juan will give tonight are also in the related information section below the player. So you can download them and use them when you practice yourself. And of course, this clinic will be on demand afterwards. So you can then replay this part and see if you can do this kind of tricks yourself also.
It's not a trick, it's training.
yeah, it's training, sure. We like to also ask you some questions during these clinics. Therefore, we use polls. And these polls will show up below the player, and we will just ask you a few questions, and you will see what your answers are, and we will discuss them later on.
Fantastic.
And and then our first poll is: you've listened to Last Exit, which was the opening song of this clinic, and we'd like to know if you know what the meter was of this song. Was it just a straight 4/4 beat, or was it another beat? So you can choose between A, 4/4 beat, B, 3/4 beat, C, was it a 5/4 beat, D, a 6/4 beat, or E, a 7/4 beat. Now you can make your choice, and later on we will see what you think it was. But maybe, Juan, you can help them a little bit.
Well, if I help them a little bit, okay, I might give it away, but let me play a little example. I don't count in, I just start playing the groove of the song. And then maybe it's easy for you to find it out. And if not, don't worry, there's always something new to learn. Okay, let me not count in, this is difficult. There we go.
So you can say, was this a straight 4/4 beat, or was it something else? I mean, you have the possibilities below the video player, so you can choose now. But Juan, let's start with the clinic.
Yeah.
First part is, what's the best way to study? Give us all your information and experience.
Okay, I think the most important part you should not forget is you have to create time to study. This is so important. And creating time to study means, for example, if you come from work and you have a lunch break, don't go in lunch break and practice, because it doesn't make any sense. It's better to, if you get home, have a nice dinner, you know, have your time with your wife, 5 minutes, or your boyfriend when you're a girl. Forget about it. Anyway, and you have to create a time. So the time you create, at least let it be half an hour a day, something like that. Or even better, an hour a day. Instead of just saving all the practice time for just at the end of the week and do the whole Sunday of practicing. Because that doesn't give you that much progress. So first create the time to study. Then, of course, very important, don't just sit behind the drum kit and start playing all over the place, because you might get bored with your own playing after a while. So you have to be very, let me say, disciplined to do some exercises and not all of them in one go. So the best way to start is to warm up. And warming up is, means like a little exercise. Let me give an example, a warming up exercise. Let's say you sit behind the drum kit. My tip is the snares. Always loosen them, just so throw them off. So there's no snare sound, just a plain drum. Because if you hit the snare drum with the snares, first thing you think of as a drummer, hey, let's play a beat, and you start playing a beat. And you want to stay away from that if you practice, if you study. So this is the warming up exercise, and in this way you can study. Start up with the warming up in single strokes, for example. I just do it in 16 beats, 16 notes. So 1, 2, 3. This is a tempo. I go like. I play everything equal. Very important. Single strokes. And you can get over to double strokes. So if you play 2 bars single strokes, go to 2 bars of double strokes. That's always interesting. And try to switch over without any notice. That's difficult. Let's try it. 1, 2. Single strokes and then double strokes. 2 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again. Doubles. And back. Once more. So, as you can hear, it's very fluent. There's no hesitation. This is very important. This is the warming up exercise. It's not fast. It doesn't have to be fast. Yep. It has to be equal.
By the way, there are many warming up exercises in the downloadable related information you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what notices me is that you always play the hi-hat when you count.
Yes. I have to play the hi-hat. You know, the hi-hat is the most important instrument of the whole drum set. I get this question many times. I think a lot of colleague drummers get the same questions. I cannot imagine I'm the only one, but I'm trying to explain to everybody that plays drums, don't lose the focus and attention of the hi-hat, because this is in fact your inner clock. So what happens is the beat that burns inside, boom, 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 needs to be getting out through the hi-hat. It's a nice frequency that always is there for everybody to listen to. So not only for yourself, but also for the whole band, it's very important to hear hi-hat. Because if you change any groove or you play a difficult fill, for example, and you don't play the hi-hat, many times the rest of the band, they have no clue where you are. So to help them out,
you have the hi-hat.
You need the hi-hat.
By the way, I think this is an answer for a question that came in from Andrea right at the right time.
Fantastic.
She asked, are there any methods to maintain the pulse and stay in time in any condition of speed and dynamics? I think that's the hi-hat, isn't it?
That is the hi-hat, yeah, definitely. You know, the hi-hat is important for everything. Let me give you a little example. I play a little fragment without the hi-hat, okay? Let me see if I can do it. I just play without the snares on, so... Another example. Human. So these are two examples without the hi-hat, and you can hear the accents, they become a certain pulse.
Yeah.
But inside, I felt this. So I was referring to the hi-hat as like 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the fourth.
Different from what you hear.
Yes, different from what you hear. You need a reference. The hi-hat is the biggest reference.
Yeah.
And you can always hear it.
Yeah, sure. Well, good tip for Andrea, I think.
Yeah.
So next, best way to study. What's?
Well, another thing that you have to bear in mind is, you know, if you want to improve what you're studying, I think you have to make sure that you keep track on what you have done. Because I can imagine, and I only can talk out of from experience, because I was there once, and then I learned not to go there anymore, is just to sit behind the drum kit and do all kinds of exercises. And then at a certain point you will forget what you've been doing, because there's so much to learn. Independency training, coordination, rudiments, fills, groove composing, you name it. It's a lot of subjects. Yeah. So you have to keep track. And the best way to do it is to have a book, make little notes. Every day when you study something, I've done 5 minutes of this and half an hour of that, and just, you know, stick to 2 subjects basically, and maybe repeat that all the time. Because you should never forget that in the training process, you have 3 phases where you have to go through. And the first phase is you have to analyze everything. You have to understand what you are going to do. Second phase is coordination. It's great that you understand it, but then you have to let your body do all the work. So what arm goes to what drum, and so forth, and so forth. And then the third process, that's the most difficult one. It's all about repeating everything. So this costs most of the time. And this is where a lot of drummers forget to keep their focus on.
Yeah. So it's important also for yourself to make a training program.
Yes.
To say where you are and stay in progress. And what I always think is important is to have a discipline to study, not just to play along with things, but to make sure that you have a nice program that you study, so you can continue studying instead of being, let's say, always putting on your headphone and start playing along with songs, because then you don't get anywhere.
That's true, but there's also another thing that I would like to add to it, because you're right, you're totally right. But I can also understand, you know, there's differences. There's people that decide to make their job out of this. I mean, I did that. Yeah. I was stupid enough to do it. So then you need to put a lot of hours into being very focused and disciplined. I can understand when people have a job and they do it as a hobby, but they still have the passion for it, that the fun factor and making progress should be in balance. Yeah. So like you said, if you only play long songs and you have a great time, that's fun. After a while, you will get bored because you don't feel the progress. The body wants progress. The brain wants it too.
Sure.
So the balance is to make.
And it's exciting when you see that you make progress. Of course.
Yeah, and then you can choose more difficult songs.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun.
Great.
You can do it.
We have the results of the poll. 78% knew that it was a 5/4 beat.
How?
Last Exit was a 5/4 beat. So great answers, and
Well done.
many of you, about 10% thought it was 4/4 beat, and a few of you thought it was a 6/4 beat.
Ah.
But Last
One
Exit
less.
is a 5/4
One
beat.
less, yeah?
Yeah. I think we should conclude this part, and just to summarize, what you try to learn us is create time to study.
Yes.
At least 15 minutes a day.
Yes,
But
at
be
least.
aware, you also have to warm up.
Yep.
So that takes you 15 minutes
Yep,
also.
yep.
Keep track of your progress.
Yes.
And I think what's very important is that you also record your training, because then you really hear if things are at the right meter and if your coordination is okay.
You know, that's the best teacher. It's better that you judge yourself by watching back or listening back than somebody telling you, because when somebody tells you, it doesn't feel nice. You know, if somebody comes to me, hey man, it was a great show, but I didn't like your snare drum sound. It always feels like, oh, that's bad. You know, if I can make the conclusion, it's much better. Then I will learn faster to make it better.
Yeah, sure, great. Going to the next part is using basics to get into a creative flow. We will have a poll for that in a few minutes.
Okay.
But maybe you can already start. What is important for, well, the basics you're using to create new stuff?
Well, to get into a creative flow, it's first of all you need to practice all the stuff. We mentioned that before. So once you are fluently playing single strokes, your double strokes, and your paradiddles. Paradiddles is always the combination of single and double strokes. You know, you can create all kinds of patterns, and the patterns that you create can create a certain groove. And a groove that you create can create a certain song in your head. And all that, it all has to do with your imagination. You have to actually feed the imagination.
Yeah, and for your imagination, imagination is also something that is important for soloing.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about soloing today in detail, but in your first song, Last Exit, there was a small solo.
All right. Yeah.
And one of the viewers asked us, what do you think while you play a solo?
Ah, interesting question. First of all, I try not to think as much as possible. Because if you start thinking, for example, what you are playing or what you're going to play, I find out, and maybe you recognize it, you start making mistakes because then the brain starts to work in a different way. It's not a creative way, it's more like a controlled way. Hey, am I playing this good, or is it I have to improve this? And once you start getting there, you might lose the creative flow. So if I think about something, I might think about something before I start playing it. And this could be, for example, a little image. And that has to do with the emotion of at the moment when I'm playing
What
the
you're going to
song.
play.
Yeah. And if I create that vision, that helps me to play anything. And then, having said that, I realize it sounds so easy, but first of all, I trained, of course, many hours, all kinds of exercises, and therefore my muscle memory helps me out. I sometimes play stuff, I don't realize what's happening, and if I look at it, sometimes I get scared. Because I go, what the fuck? What the F was that?
Where did this come from?
It's live. Yeah. Where does this come from? And it's great because now I can enjoy this. But before, I would lose it. Maybe you recognize it if you practice something and you want to show people. This is another tip. It's very important. I've been there, so I made the same mistake. I was taught by a good teacher. Hey, try this lick. He was like. So I practiced this many times, and it didn't work for a while. Then suddenly I start playing it in my rehearsal room. Don't make this mistake. Don't think at the same night, okay, tonight with my band, I'm going to play this break, because then you have to think about it. Yeah, it's totally different.
That then comes in with a question. It's nice to see that you find these the way to ask questions. By the way, you can use the question bar below the player, but you can also use our hashtag, which is #MCJuan. To ask questions, because we will look at that also. But then ask you, at what point will I notice that I actually master So I understand a certain rudiment or combination.
At one point
When do you feel that it is okay?
That's a good question. That's a good question. You feel it when you can do an exercise like this, for example. You know, single paradiddles, you know all this. A single paradiddles is a group of 4. So normally what you do is you play it in the 16 notes. That's obvious. I play with the snares on now. So you go like paradiddle, now try to do the next exercise. You play a single paradiddle, but now you use 16 triplets. So, which means that you go from 16 to 16 triplets.
Yep.
And if you then still use the single paradiddle, you can find out if you have mastered both exercises in the right way. Let me do the other exercise first.
Yep.
The 16 triplets, single paradiddles. You can hear here. Single 16 triplets. I'm going too fast. There we go. So what happens is, these are the 16 triplets divided in 4. So we call this a group, 4 against 6. Yep. It sounds funny. It feels odd. But if you get used to it, then it feels like something that is belonging to you.
Yeah.
Now making the switch, you will find out if you can do it. So let's try it. It will sound like this. Single paradiddle, 16. Back. Once more.
Great. Yeah, and you can see the heartbeat in the hi-hat. Eh?
Exactly.
Let's go to the next poll because while we are creating now, we also like to know if you sometimes create a drum solo yourself. Oh, so the question is, what is the longest drum solo you ever performed on stage, so in front of an audience? Is that A, 2 minutes, B, 5 minutes, C, 10 minutes, D, 2 hours, but then the audience left the building, or E, did you never perform a drum solo? So make your choice. And then we can continue here. By the way, Juan, maybe for the viewers, nice. If you could create a drum solo,
yes.
Not now.
Okay. But what a waste. What a shame.
No.
Oh.
But let's do it this way.
Okay.
If you use the hashtag #MCJuan and you just give a title for a drum solo. So hashtag #MCJuan, you give just a title for a drum solo, and then let's say that you're going to create a drum solo and we will publish it in a few days, few weeks, depending on how many time you have, because you're going to go on tour.
Yes, you have to be quick. I have to be quick.
So you have to be quickly, or it takes some time afterwards.
So we'll do it tonight.
So yeah, so just give us some suggestions, and we will come back to you about this. Continue.
Okay. Now, very important is if you want to create this flow, you have to keep playing. So don't play a groove, but play all the exercises and make the exercises sound like a little pattern. So you feel more comfortable. So I will throw the snares off again. I'll start doing something different. So, for example, we do this thing a little bit faster. Go like the height goes in 8 notes now. So what I'm trying to do now is enjoy the sounds that I'm playing. And you can see that I play a certain pattern with my right hand and fill it up with the left hand. It's a combination. What I try to do is to stay as much as I can into the same flow. So it becomes like a piece of music. Once I play this, what happens is, and you can try to sing something. You can use your melodies with the toms for it. Like so all these tones you can use and for your brains to stay creative. It's very nice to do it. I'll give you another example. If you sit behind a drum kit and you take it very easy, it doesn't have to be fast. maybe it's better to do it slow. Take your time. It's nice for the neighbors also.
Yeah.
So there you go. So 16, simple 16. And repeat it. Ah. And don't change it, never change it. There's a little melody already. Bam. And there's a gap. You can hear the gap over there. Oh, one more again. Happens all the time, you make mistakes. No problem, there we go again. So you try to fill the gaps there on the snare drum. Once more. Just a little two examples to train yourself to do different things on the drum kit.
Yeah.
And using everything that you have inside you. And maybe you've noticed if you create more gaps, it becomes more like a music piece.
And it's always nice to see that you have this 10-inch tom over there, which is what you normally don't see.
No.
Why do you do that?
There's one simple reason. If I put the little tom over here in the first position and then next to it the 12-inch tom, so it moves over here, what you get is a high note, a lower note, low, low. Yeah. What happens with us drummers is we are physical players, so we get used to a certain movement. So my brains already know this is a high tom that will be lower. To put this little tom over there, it becomes a little surprise because my brain goes like, what is this little high note doing there? So the first reaction that my brain makes is like, hey, I have to be aware. So it really, in the first place, makes me aware of the drum set that it's a different constellation. Now I found out if I put a little drum head on it and I tune it up a little, it becomes a percussion instrument.
Yeah.
So it's just a little extra tom. It's not my first tom. This is my first tom. Then here the floor.
You can use it for some nice accents.
I can use it for many nice accents, yeah.
Okay, great on your drum solo. By the way, what do you think, what percentage of our viewers never played a drum solo in front of an audience?
Wow.
What do you think?
I think not many drummers play a drum solo, but I think it's more like a little part of the song. This is going to be difficult. Let me be safe. 40%?
30%.
Ah! Did I win something?
And even, no. And 18% played solos of 10 minutes.
Wow.
So that's great, 18%. And 24% played drum solos for 2 or 5 minutes. So
that's good.
And there was 4% played drum solos for 2 hours, but then no one was there anymore.
Okay.
Okay, to finalize this part. So summary for using basics to get into a creative flow is study in slow tempo.
Yes, definitely.
Focus on sound quality.
Yeah.
And use your whole drum kit to get some more sounds. Let me see if there are any nice questions coming in. Yes. Well, there's a question from Sophie. She asks, how do you compose a great drum solo? But I think that's basically what we kind of answered already.
Yeah, we did. Well, we can do, if people start sending in the title, then maybe that's a good example. Then they see what the influence of a good title is on, being creative on translating it to the drum kit.
But you can still send this in, this great, this title, this ID for Juan. So use the hashtag MC Juan, and then he will come back with a nice drum solo.
And maybe we should mention also, send me a title that is inspiring. So
what drum solo did inspire you in the past when you were a young boy?
Oh well, we have
many
to go
times
way back. There's two drum solos actually that really inspired me. That was, I believe, Little B of the Shadows.
Yeah.
And the drum solo that Graham Lear played, Heads and Feet, I believe. He played with Santana. It's on the live album Moonflower. It's an amazing solo. Hey, I was little then, and these guys told stories on the drum kit. I mean, that in my brain, you know.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
somebody else listens to goes like,
Yeah, but I mean, it's something you.
Yeah.
It's your way to represent what you feel,
Yeah.
what you can do.
yeah,
So, okay, let's continue to the last but most important part of this clinic.
okay.
Groove composing, because that's why you are here. How do you do it? How do you come up with these great grooves? And before we do that, we're gonna ask a question to the viewers, a
Okay.
poll, and it says, "Do you invent grooves for the songs of your own band?" I mean, do you create it, or
Yeah.
do you always start with a riff from the guitar player, or I mean, basically, do
And
you
then-
come up with nice ideas for your
Right.
band? Answer A is I have never invented a groove. The second answer, answer B, is I compose grooves, but they do not fit into the music of my band. C, my band only plays covers, so no use for creating nice grooves. And some songs are based on my grooves. So sometimes it's successful and my band can use it. So I hope to get your answers in. But Juan, continue. How
Sure.
do you get into these creative grooves?
Okay, creating a groove has to do with trying to stay away from the obvious. When I teach people and I give them a subject like this, I teach them a subject like this, that I always see that a lot of drummers are struggling. Because we normally listen to other drummers and we copy them, or we learn from the books, which is a good way. It's a good way to learn how to play the instrument. But it's also nice to make the next step is daring to come up with something new. And daring up to come up with something new, most of the times, is hidden in an area where you have to change a lot of things, a regular drum kit. For example, what really helps is, this is the way how I start, take away parts of your drum set that you normally play. Because if you have a gap, like there's missing a tom or there's no right cymbal, you have to find out in a different way how to create a groove. So that's an example how you can do it. Another example is to use linear drumming. You know what linear drumming is?
Yeah.
Okay, let me explain a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Normally you play a groove and you make a pattern on the hi-hat or the right cymbal, and you keep playing that, like 8 notes. And you play a groove. And you can hear that the whole groove is depending on that hi-hat. So what you can do if you play linear, you play everything after each other. So almost nothing or hardly anything else comes at the same time. You can use paradiddles for that. I can demonstrate them right now, but I might take you to a different island. I found out recently a nice way, how to do it. You create a pattern like this, and this is a very easy pattern. You can all play along with me. If you play the right hand on the rim of the floor tom, just to start off with. Everybody play along, right? This is going to be fun. And the left hand I play on the rim here on the snare drum. So you hear the different sound. And then I'm going to use the bass drum, of course, on the bass drum. Very simple. Now I'm going to show you a little pattern that is very easy to play. It's all in 16th, but it has gaps. And it's a linear way of playing. So here comes the hi-hat to guide us all, also me. Good example again. If you don't play the hi-hat for this groove, forget about it. Okay, 1, 2. Join in if you can. Good example. Now, once you master this, now you can use the right hand. You know, the pattern stays the same, but you play it on a different instrument. I'm going to play it on the hi-hat now. And the left hand I'm going to play on the snare drum. But I don't change the pattern, right? 3 and 4 and... see what happens already. Using the same pattern but changing it over to a different instrument makes already a different sound.
Yeah, and Richard is wondering. If you study this and you learn this, he says, how do I avoid playing the same pattern all over again if I improvise? So how do I avoid that?
That really depends on how he means it. But what I hear in this question is maybe something else. Because I would say, if you play a pattern like this, you have to keep playing it to get used to it. I wouldn't avoid keep on playing this. I think the question is more about how do I avoid to keep playing everything at the same time or repeating too much.
Yeah.
What you can do is, in this example, change the drums that you play.
Yeah.
So keep the same pattern, but change the sounds of it. And then always make sure that you use it as a groove. So, for example, what you can do, I just start from here. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Keep the pattern, but change the instruments. 3 and 4 and... Just a couple of examples to train your ears and you train your movements.
By the way, this would be a nice example for a band to compose a song on top of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it seems that from our poll that we've just asked the viewers, 60% of the viewers have created some grooves that are the basics for one of the songs they play with the band.
That's fantastic.
So that's good.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah. Continue.
Okay, so let me get away from the question of Richard and continue with this flow. Because as you already have noticed maybe, on the snare drum I used a pressed roll. Because what you can do in the next step is, if you just maintain this groove, it's not a groove. It's like a rhythm pattern that you play. So you have to use little elements to make it tasty. One of the things you can do is use a press roll every now and then. Like...
That's what you call a press roll.
That's a press roll.
Okay.
And then there's also the little ghost notes. So some of the notes you can play way softer than the normal hit. So in the differences there, you get more colors.
Yeah.
So you get... Now let me show you, if you master this, if you play groove like this a little bit faster, and you will hear the difference, you will hear the flow, and you will hear something that makes, the women dance and stuff. This is what you want, yeah? I always rehearse with a lot of women, so when they start dancing...
They're not here today, but...
Not today. And then
practicing with someone else, I guess.
Exactly. But when they start dancing, then you know as a drummer you're doing a good job, yeah? Okay, 1, 2, 3, stuff like that.
Great. I got a question from Jasper, and he says, do you have any good ways of practicing and creating ostinato patterns? So like playing a separate pattern with the feet.
Say that again?
He likes to know, do you have any good ways of practicing ostinato patterns or creating them, like playing separate patterns with your feet?
Separate patterns with your feet. It's like repetition, I guess.
I'm
Okay.
not su- I'm
Because the
maybe
most,
Jasper, if you want to know more,
Yeah.
maybe you can just send in your question again and tell us a little bit more what you really want to know. But that's what he asked now. But let's then continue to a question from Jeroen.
Yeah.
And he says, how do you create new groovy beats, and how do you use dynamics and rudiments in this?
Okay.
I
Dynamics.
think, I
and
think
rudiments.
specifically dynamics is important because
Okay.
rudiments we've already
Yeah,
discussed,
yeah.
but the dynamics were not in your
Exactly.
story yet.
I think dynamics, you know, one of the most important things is like when you talk, and you talk at the same volume constantly, then you become like a little robot, and that same counts for the playing. So dynamics in your playing and articulation is very important. So it's always the combination of that. So leveling up anything in the groove makes a big difference. We already saw in the groove I just played, when you don't use any dynamics, it becomes very static. But using the dynamics makes the groove sound more like a groove. I can
And is
give
there any way you can practice that specifically?
yeah, you can
Because
do
you
it.
really, I mean, my opinion is that you really have to feel confident that this very soft playing
Yeah.
still needs to be steady. And sometimes you just lose speed because you have to play so very soft.
Yeah, it's totally true. I can only tell you that if you practice, use as much as you can, use the metronome to double check if you do exercises like this. Because what happens if you play soft, there's always something in the brain that happens that think that you have to play slow. I'm not a surgeon. I'm not a psycho. I'm a psycho, but not a how do you say it in English? A psychiatric doctor. I'm not a doctor.
Physician.
So
Whatever.
I have no idea why it happens, but it happens. It happens to us drummers. So, and we are playing with the time constantly. So it's very important to use the metronome. Now let me give you a little example of using dynamics in like a regular groove.
Yeah.
But not regular. I'll make like a little breakbeat.
Yeah, regular grooves we know. But
Yeah.
now
Let's do a little
something
breakbeat.
special.
Something special for today. What about something shuffly? Not too much, but yeah, let's do 1, 2. I must say, and it's very important, in your studio, man, the sound is so amazing. Really nice, serious. I'm really enjoying playing this drum kit here.
Great.
It sounds big. It has a nice controlled sound. So every time when you use dynamics here, it works.
Yeah.
You can hear it also, eh?
Yeah.
It really works. And you know, it's all these things that trigger my playing.
Yeah.
If the sound would be horrible here, I could never.
I mean, the
play
sound
like
is even so good in the studio that one of our viewers says, and maybe you don't know, but he says, I noticed that you hum during you play. Could you tell us a little bit why you do that?
Okay, that's cool.
So the sound is so very good that they hear you hum.
Okay, well noticed. I'm glad you mentioned it. I could tell you a big anecdote, but I won't do it. The first time I noticed that I did it was a friend of mine, a technician. He told me I was humming. And you know what? At tours, at concerts, if I don't have to sing during the show, I lose my voice. I never understood why it was until I was wearing earplugs. And then I heard, Anytime I play, there is some song in my head. It's not a song that is there, but it's bass parts, it's guitar parts, it's anything that I create in my brain. And that's also a very important thing to tell, I guess.
Yeah.
Well noticed, well spotted. If I don't sing in my brain, I think my grooves won't sound like this, like juicy as this, and simple or groovy like this, because then it becomes for me like mathematics, and I'm not good with.
Yeah, it's maybe like I've seen you doing some practices where you just let people do very basic rudiments,
Yeah.
single strokes,
Yeah.
and then you say just create a song in your head.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this also helps you to make more out of just the basic rudiments and
Yeah.
start following the song with
Yeah.
the things you play.
You know
Kind
what,
of.
You know what's interesting about it? It's totally true. I try to show people to become more creative by using the creative brain as much as possible. What also helps is if you practice instead of a metronome, and nowadays everybody has music programs. Get a piece of music that you like so much, cut it into chops, like a couple of bars, and put it on repetition, so it repeats constantly, and then can use that as a metronome. And then you have the music around you, and that very often inspires you to play more than just an exercise that you're doing.
Yeah.
So if you want to use that, you will make more improvement because you're just repeating. You know, if you play sample and you repeat it, and goes in a loop, you can play for hours. I mean, I do it all the time. My neighbors are complaining about it.
Yeah. So we've also received some nice suggestions for your drum solo, by the way.
Okay, cool.
I think Richard was very inspired by Halloween because he wants to call your drum solo Blood Moon.
Oh my God.
And then we have some other questions like Lost in the Fog. Maybe that's
Sorry?
Lost in the Fog. Maybe this has something to do with things you're telling now.
Okay.
I don't know. Fly Along and Redbird. So we got a
Nice.
Blood Moon and we got a Redbird. So I think there's something there that will inspire you.
Okay,
to make
inspiring.
A nice,
Good titles.
Yeah.
Well
Let me see what comes in. There's a new question from Angelo from Italy.
Okay.
He says, "Hi, Juan."
Angelo.
You know him or not?
I think I know Angelo.
Maybe from your master classes. But he says, "Hi, how important are ghost notes for the groove?"
Oh my God. Oh my God. Good you remind me. Ghost notes. Without ghost notes, food will be very horrible and straight. Ghost notes like the little herbs you put into the food. Ghost notes can be like the sauce in the food. Ghost notes is something that gives me the feeling I can lean on it. I remember I went into the studio and one of the producers told me, "Hey, you're playing all these little notes. Can you stop playing them?" And I started to not play them. And then I felt so uncomfortable. And then I trained myself to not play them anymore. And then I listened back to all the tracks I was playing. It was so boring.
Yeah.
And then I decided, you know what? I just make them very soft. So I trained myself to play them very soft, so the producer would not hear them in the music anymore. And then I could use it.
It's important for you to be able to play them.
Yeah, you know what happens with if I play like an 8 groove, very simple groove. But let me find something without the 2 and the 4 on the snare. Okay,
Yeah.
it's like 1 and 2 and 4. So what happens is, if you watch my motion, if I wouldn't play it with dynamics and would play everything as loud as any note, it would like. It looks like a dummy, I know,
Yeah.
but it's just to express what happens. So inside, what happens is I have something to hold on, and these 16 notes make it sound for my inner
Yeah.
clock more solid. So with the ghost notes. I would suggest, play them as much as you can.
Yeah, sounds very good. And it gives you just more feeling like it's a train who's rolling.
It's more musical. It's more tasty.
There's a lot of questions are coming in now. We got a question from Tom, and he says, "How can you make an odd rhythm like 7/8?
Yeah.
But you still have to make it danceable and groovy, just like a standard 4/4.
Wow.
How can you make this 7/8?
That's a good question. I would love to show you how to do it. I tell you, and I will be honest with you, I never play 7/8.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Why is that?
One of the reasons is that I never play those odd bars because I was never interested in playing them in the first place. And the music that I play is not an odd meters. So, I can show it, and and so you could do this, you could that, but
But Last Exit is quite groovy.
Yeah, but that's 5/4.
Yeah, that's different.
17/4.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
If you use the 8 notes and you make odd meters, and hey, I'm not embarrassed about it. I always say, I don't feel it. I'm not into that. Why making it difficult if it can be simpler and more musical?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Tom. Find a teacher. He can tell you.
Well, there's another suggestion for your drum solo. It's called the Happy Drummer. Maybe it's inspired on you as a person.
Happy drummer.
The Happy Drummer. I think we should conclude this part of the clinic.
Yeah.
The part where you go into composing these grooves. You told us, and you tried to learn us how to expand. That you have to expand your boundaries to create something new.
Yeah.
So do something new.
Yeah.
And use your linear concept.
Yeah.
Use a metronome to improve your internal clock because that's important. Combine it with your hi-hat also.
Yeah. Yeah.
And use a loop to expand musicality in linear groove playing.
Right.
I think these are the most important learnings from this part. By the way, you can download these learnings from the download section. There's more for you. You can also see the drum setup that Juan is using and also the mic setup he's using. So just go there. And if you want to see Juan playing with the Steph Burns League, just download the tour schedule, which is in there also. So we're kind of moving into the end of this clinic. But if you've missed something, or if you want to see something new, or if you have a colleague or a friend who wants to see this also but was not able to watch this tonight, there will also be, of course, an on-demand version. It will be there, I think, tomorrow or the day after, and we will send you an email anyway to find it on our website, music-clinics.com. And again, you can download all the related information. Let's see if there's something else which I didn't mention in there. The exercises are always good to use, of course. And then before we go to the last part, because we have a last play-along you're going to do, I want to ask you something else. We like to know what you think of these clinics, because we like to continue, but we like to make them better every time. And by the way, we are not only going to do drum clinics, but we are also going to do guitar clinics, for example, and bass clinics.
Yep.
And the next one is Steph Burns coming in as a guitar player. So we like to know what you think of it. And below the video player, you will see a button that says evaluation form. Please fill it in. Let us know what you think of it, how you, what you learned today, and what you also think what we can do better for the next clinic. And if you do so, you make a chance to be here in the next clinic in the studio to meet the artist and see how we are doing this and see how questions from all the viewers come in from Europe. We saw people from Germany, people from Italy, people from England, and of course the Netherlands. So hopefully you will fill in this form and maybe we see you in the studio next time. So Juan, to conclude, the last part of the clinic.
Yes.
We're going to use a play-along.
Yep.
What's the title of the play-along?
Hidden Treasures.
Why did you pick this one?
Cool. Hidden Treasures for me is a song that is not out yet, and I'm composing a lot of tracks, play-along tracks actually for drummers.
Yeah.
Basically to study. And this track is an example. I created this track for my own study. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with this song, but I use it for warming up, for getting into a mood of creating and flow. This is why I chose this song, because I think it's a challenge to do this live for the audience, and see what's going to happen.
You're going to improvise also now?
Yeah, constantly.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. It was nice to see you here in our first music clinic, and hopefully we'll see you next time again. And Juan, just go ahead.
Cool, man.
Take the floor.
There we go. I used to play along here. There we go.